Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, Hare Krishna everybody. Today we are assembled here to read from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, and today we are reading from chapter 3 entitled Karma Yoga, and text is 41. So we will read the Sanskrit. Tasmat tvam indriyan yadav papmanam prajati hyanam. Oh, like that. Okay, sorry. Niyam ya bharatarshaba papmanam prajahi hyanam jnana vijnana nasanam tasmat tvam indriyan yadav Niyam ya bharatarshaba papmanam prajahi hyenam jnana vijnana nasanam tasmat tvam indriyan yadav Niyam ya bharatarshaba papmanam prajahi hyenam Jnana vijnana nasanam. So word for word, please repeat. Tasmat, therefore. Tvam, you. Indriyani, senses. Adav, in the beginning. Niyamya, by regulating. Bharatarshaba, O chief amongst the descendants of Bharata. Papmanam, the great symbol of sin. Prajahi, curb. He, certainly. Enam, this. Jnana, of knowledge. Vijnana, and scientific knowledge of the pure soul. Nashanam, the destroyer. Translation. Please repeat it also. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin. Lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning, so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position in his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31. Jnanam paramaguyam me yad vijnana samanvitam sarahasyam tadangam cha grihana gaditam maya. Translation: the knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained in the various aspects by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad-Gita gives us general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses of Krishna in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of God, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we will read verse one more time. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge, of self-realization. So today's verse actually is a continuation from verses before. In the whole chapter 3, Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna to do what Krishna wants him to do. And he has started first to encourage him by saying that it is your duty and that's what you have to do. And later on, in further chapters, he will continue in a little different mood, but in this specific chapter, he's talking mostly about duty. So then, in the verse 36, Arjuna is asking, so what is that force which does not allow me to do what am I supposed to do? what forces me to do what I don't want to do, but I'm still doing. So what is that force? So then Krishna explains that it's lust. Very, very simple, he was saying. But then for these verses now he elaborates of lust and how and what and where it is situated. So he starts to say that actually every living entity in this material world is covered by lust. It's not just because Arjuna asked and Arjuna is, or some are and some are not. Everybody, animals, insects, humans, anyone who is having the body made of gross senses has that. So then he continues, he says, okay, we know now, lust is there, but then he says that it is actually enemy, that it's not our friend, it's enemy, and it is eternal enemy. It's always been an enemy, and always the lust will be an enemy, and you cannot satisfy that enemy anyhow. Like sometimes we hear the envious snake you can pacify by mantras and like this and like that, but the lust you cannot pacify, you cannot satisfy. In fact, it burns like a fire. You give more, you want more. So there is no amount of things that can pacify or satisfy or satiate lust. It's burning like fire. So more you put in a fire, the fire becomes bigger. So then Krishna in next verse he is telling, because now it's enemy, so then the battle starts. When we find an enemy, the battle starts. So we have some strategic planning how to conquer the enemy. So he's saying that it sits in mind, intelligence and senses. So now in today's verse we are reading that, so now you found out that's an enemy forever, where it sits, so deal with it. He's saying, curb this great symbol of sin. Do it. So that's what this verse says. So then this is almost end of chapter, and the future verse is saying that it sits in the mind, lust sits in the mind, lust sits in intelligence, in senses, but you are not mind, senses, or intelligence. You are soul. And that already was explained in chapter before. But here it says that you are superior to those senses, mind and intelligence. Superior. So then last verse says, so knowing that you are superior, by that spiritual strength conquer lust. So if we are weaker, we can't do anything. But we are not weaker, we are stronger. So we need to gather the strength and conquer. So that is what how Krishna concludes this chapter of Karma Yoga. So in this verse, Prabhupada, from this verse, he extracts two words, jnana and vijnana. He says, the jnana refers to knowledge of the self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. So that is jnana. And it says, actually, all these first six chapters of Bhagavad-Gita deals with that. These topics from different aspects. So then in the 7th chapter, and then on, the superior knowledge is described. So, but in 7.3, Krishna is saying that out of 1,000 of men, one will endeavor for that spiritual knowledge for perfection. And out of 1,000 of those who endeavor for perfection, one will actually understand Krishna. So it is very rare. It's very rare. So very rare will be the person who actually is interested in that spiritual knowledge. So in jnana, in actually acquiring knowledge. Especially nowadays, there are so much misconception what knowledge is. There are so many colleges, so many universities producing undesirable characteristics in people, in students. So the graduates actually sometimes come out worse than they've entered that school. So, like that. So then, in this Jnana section, we can have so many examples how to illustrate that soul is not this body. And Prabhupada is so expertly describing in very simple, childlike examples, which everybody who has a slight intelligence and desire can understand. For example, he says, we know a very famous example, everybody is using it. Everybody, and it is so effective. Like, I'm talking, I'm sitting here and I'm talking, and you are sitting and listening. And after half an hour, we will walk and we will go. So there is some movements, there is some life. But when the person is dead, then there is no movement and no life. The body is just lying on the ground. So what is the change? If we say that the person is actual person, the self is the body, then why is not continuing his activities? The body is still there. So then we can see that soul has gone. Then the soul was the actual personality. And then we can regret how whole life we were only focusing on this body. Actually, that body which I loved is not this body. That person who I loved was the soul, and now he's gone. So I never knew actually is that person. One example. Then another example is about that all the children like to play. Where is your nose? It's here. Where is your arm? It's here. And where are you? And then here. And what is here? This is the heart. This is where you, the soul, actually is sitting. Then we show, I am here. But this is my hand. It is not I am the hand. It's not that I am the eyes, I am the nose. So this is jnana. This is a basic knowledge, actually, what we can start with. And this can be analyzed. We can analyze it. We can discuss it among themselves and make conclusions. So the farthest we can get is that I am not this body. I am beyond the body. I'm something spiritual. But then is the point where we can't reach just by our own intelligence, just by our own efforts. And that's a point where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, comes in. Because he is a person, he has to come, he has to reveal himself. And that's because the soul is a person, as we concluded in this example of dead body, and Krishna is a person, some relationship starting there. So that's why this is beyond any kind of analysis and logic. So that is something what a person has to reveal. Any of us, if we want to have some relationship, both have to agree to have the relationship. One may force himself into that relationship, but if other person is not agreeing, it will not come out nice. You will not know anyway anything about that other person. Maybe you will not even know the name. So that's why the aspect of mercy comes. And many times, people engrossed in this material world don't want to hear about something like mercy, because we want to achieve everything ourselves. That's what brought us to this material world, because we want to be the doers, we want to be in the center, and we want to be the Lord. Mercy means I am depending on someone. Mercy means that I am unable, incapable, unqualified. I need some help, I need some shelter. That's what mercy means. But all these things are opposite the idea of ruling, the opposite of idea of lording over. So the mercy and the false ego is clashing. So that's why vijnana is not always easy. But in the 9th chapter, Krishna is introducing in 9.2, he's saying that devotional service is one what makes us realize. Because by devotional service, by Krishna activities in Krishna consciousness, by what is 9, we can put it in 9 categories: hearing, chanting the holy name, remembering, praying, becoming a friend, it's already higher and higher, surrendering fully ourselves. These activities naturally please Krishna. So then Krishna slowly reveals himself to that practitioner. So then Vijnana comes. So Prabhupada says here that the living entity is simply meant to serve the Lord. And this consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So basically everything is about consciousness. In a material world, we are serving our senses, and if externally it does appear that we serve somebody else, it is still for our pleasure. We may feel that it is something selfless, but we are serving husband, we are serving mother, we are serving father, we are serving nation, we are serving children, we are working hard to provide their education, we are doing so many things seemingly for others, but it is just because this is all in relation with me. And I have some expectation. If I have paid so much money for the child's education, I'm expecting that he will get a good job and earn. And if after education child says I don't want, I become so upset and angry. So means actually I was doing that just for my own pleasure. But actual nature of the living entity is to render selfless service, and that's possible only to the Lord and the Vaishnavas, because they are part of the existence of the Lord, the part of existence of Krishna, because Krishna is not alone. So that's why it's called Krishna consciousness, because in this material world we have self-centered consciousness, but in spiritual world it's Krishna consciousness. So it's a shift of consciousness. So that's what Prabhupada says, we have to learn that. And verse says, from the beginning. And as we know, it was said that the lust is situated in senses, in mind, intelligence. So here it is suggested how to conquer that lust, because lust means for me, as we just said, in material world is for me, and love means for Krishna. So when we engaged all these sitting places, the camps of lust, senses, mind, intelligence, in Krishna's service, then naturally lust has to go, because the lust does not want to do anything with Krishna, but with me. So it's naturally she has to, or he, whoever is, has to leave the spot. So from the beginning, it said the word from the beginning. So Srila Prabhupada said, from the beginning of life. So it's the best, it's ideal. If from the very beginning of life we can start these activities, then we cannot get contaminated so much. But of course the fact that we are in this material world already, there is a contamination from the previous life. But then another explanation, what I would like to mention about from the beginning, that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this purport writes that from the beginning we need to control the senses. And often it's also suggested not just to engage senses in Krishna consciousness, but from the beginning we keep away from the sense objects, because habit is so strong that very easily our mind can go back there. So from the beginning we withdraw senses from material sense objects and engage them in Krishna consciousness. And there are so many examples how to do. We can engage our tongue in chanting the glories of Krishna. We can engage our intelligence in understanding and analyzing the scriptures which talks about Krishna and devotional service, and so on. We can engage our legs to walk to the temple. We engage our fingers to make beautiful dresses for the deities and garlands and food for Lord to eat. So many things. But what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, that in the beginning it is okay. But later on, if someone does not make a deliberate effort to actually develop the taste for these higher principles, for these spiritual topics, and nature of the soul. Even if after a long time practicing, engaging senses in Krishna's service, still that material lust will remain. So the deliberate effort should be there, that we develop the taste, the higher taste. And if we don't do, then we will wonder, after so many decades and years I've been practicing and practicing, but still my mind goes to different sense gratification elements and things. So there should be deliberate effort. How to develop the taste, because everything is about taste, everything is about attraction. Actually, because the person is there, the jiva is there, the attraction is there. The dead matter doesn't have attraction, but the actual existence of the personality, whether it's jiva or Lord or eternal associates of Lord, which is Shakti Tattva, everything is about attraction. So the attraction of conditioned souls is perverted. Like we discussed some time ago, the reflection in a lake. So attraction is in reflection. So that same attraction, that same strong attraction has to be directed towards spiritual life. And spiritual life is not just that we receive the name Devi Dasi or Das, so everything becomes spiritual. Still, if we identify that I am this woman or I am this man, it is material. This Devi Dasi is just like a help to change the consciousness, but it's not actually making us spiritual. Everybody has a spiritual body in the spiritual world, so that attraction should be given there. So we need to understand that when we serve Krishna, or we meditate on Krishna, or we pray, or we even see the form of the deity, Krishna is not alone. In a deity form, he stands there. And Radharani is there, and maybe some painting behind. And that's it. In a picture, he is alone. And then we may very easily misinterpret, okay, I'm already here with Krishna. It's me here with this body standing, and Krishna is there, and I can pray and talk, and it's spiritual. But actually, when we talk about actually entering in a spiritual world, we have to understand that Krishna is not alone. There is a whole life going on. So how I will fit in that life? If I am still identifying with my body, how I will fit? I will not fit. So in order to fit there, I have to identify with my spiritual body. So the effort of completely casting out all the traces of lust is fully identifying with the spiritual body. Because lust belongs only to this matter, to this material body. And to the degree we identify with this material body, to that degree lust is there. So this is our famous book, Prema Bhakti Chandrika by Narottam Das Thakur. And there are a few verses under the title, The Truth About the Eternal Form of Krishna. So when we open and we read this, we think, oh, now Krishna's form will be described. But here you will see when we read that how Krishna is not alone. That when you describe Krishna's form, you cannot avoid describing Yamuna. You cannot avoid describing his associates, gopis and gopas. You cannot avoid describing Vrindavan. So that is Krishna's form. So Narottam Das Thakur says, so truth about the eternal form of Krishna. The transcendental body of Govinda is eternal. His servants are eternal. The abode of Vrindavan is effulgent. The water of the Yamuna is crystal clear. There are 8 kunjas or groves on the banks of Yamuna. The groves of Vrindavan are charming with soothing moonbeams. The 6 seasons beautify the forests, wherein the trees fulfill all desires. The blissful personality of Krishna is more effulgent than the full moon, and one should be eager to have a glimpse of his wonderful pastimes. Sri Govinda is personified bliss. He is surrounded by the gopis and enjoys various sweet pastimes. They are overwhelmed by love, attracted and attached to each other's beauty. O my mind, take shelter of the lotus feet of the damsels of Vraj without deviation. Do not hear useless gossips. Instead, fill my heart with Krishna Prema. So here we could see that truths about Krishna's eternal form are so many things. And the goal of spiritual life, it said, to have a glimpse of those pastimes, to enter there and take part and serve Krishna, to please Krishna there as a part of the pastime. So really, to achieve that, we have to fully identify with it. And that can happen by mercy, but our desire should also be there, because it's nothing by force. Krishna will not force us to enter his Leela. He will not force us to go back home to Godhead. He will not do it even if we have little desire for something else. So, of course, we may think I'm not capable to attain anything. So that's nowhere is said that we are capable, but we are yearning for that mercy. So that's why Prabhupada, when he writes here also in this purport, that love of God is a natural for every living entity. So the lust is only perverted reflection of love of God, which is natural for every living entity. It's the first sentence of last paragraph. And then he says, the best is from the very beginning. But then he says, but even a late beginner can attain perfection, because Krishna consciousness is so powerful. And then yes, so one should turn lust into love when the sense of urgency has developed, the understanding of its urgency has developed. Then one can start. So when it's not an urge in our heart, then we will still be here, like mentioned, engaged in this or this thing. But when there is an urgency, then we won't be able anymore to look back. So that regulating of the senses and engaging them in Krishna consciousness, the first achievement is to attain that urgency. And from that state of urgency, then the further development will come. But we cannot attain that if we don't want it. So first comes the theory. Like here, jnana is first. I'm not this body, I'm soul. So then vijnana is a process. It's a deliberate process. It's not by accident. The accident can be in the beginning. By accident, like was the pastime of Radhanath Swami. He was pushed out of train and it was Mathura and Janmashtami. Yeah, so it was accidentally. But that is just something from the very beginning. We cannot depend on such an accident for the rest of our lives. So the deliberate effort should be made. And the first thing what we know that we have to understand, we already understand. The impediment is of offenses. If there are any offenses committed amongst any one of us, that is the greatest impediment. The offenses of the holy name. This is the greatest danger. So at least we need to make an attempt to stop that. Because why do we perform offenses? This is also lust. And lust, it's not just a gross thing, some kind of attraction between male and female. Lust is I and mine. I and mine. And last thing when we chant 10 offenses is that to maintain material attachment after hearing all these instructions is also an offense. So what does it mean? Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani explains that actually means to think I and mine. So this is my wife, this is my house, this is my husband, this is my this is my that. As long as we identify like this, it is an offense to holy name. It can go very, very subtle, but we can pray and we can get over it by our desire, which can increase again and again. Then whatever can be inattentive chanting. There are several types of inattentive chanting. It can be indifference and I forgot other terms, but one is that we are too attracted to sense objects around us. That gives so much distraction. For example, like Narada Muni, not in a previous life, but previous to previous life, he was in a heavenly planets performing Sankirtan. But what he was thinking? About girls. How nicely he is doing and how they could notice me. So that was offense to holy name, and he took the birth as a son of the maidservant. But then of course we know his great fortune. But as an example, that is an offense. Or not to have faith in a holy name. Not to have faith, like we know the conversation with Haridas Thakur and was his name Gopal, the Brahmana, who could not have that faith that just Nama Bas, what to speak of Shuddhanam, Nama Bas can give liberation. He says people so much endeavor, the big yogis perform so much tapasya, and now you chant the holy name, which is not even pure name, only Nam Bas, and you say that you can get liberation. He says, how he was saying, I will cut off your nose, he says to Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur says, if you can find somebody who by Namabhas did not attain liberation, I will cut my own nose, so you don't need to worry. And people are like this. Like some years ago, I remember we were going it was post Gaura Purnima festival, and there are so many parikramas were organized here in Vrindavan. And there one day was Govardhan Parikrama. So we all went early morning, and then I noticed that one lady is there, and I can see she is not devotee. She is a Western American and dressed in some American way, and no bead bag, nothing. So I understand she is not devotee, but I wondered what happened, how did she got here? So I approached her and we started to talk, and she said that yes, somehow she happened to be in Vrindavan, just don't know even what is Vrindavan. Then she happened to come to this temple and she heard that this parikrama will be tomorrow, so she just showed to come. She did not know anything. She was just complaining, we had to leave so early, like 4:30 or 5, and breakfast will be only 8 o'clock. It is so bad for the stomach. Why they could not arrange anything earlier than that? So she was So then she was asking everybody going to parikrama and doing Sankirtan and chanting. So she was like looking why they are doing like this. So I was saying that trying to explain her about chanting, that can give you not just liberation, it can actually give you love of God, which she had no understanding what it is. But she said, I don't believe you. Because she had traveled around India. She said, I've seen what people are doing to get liberation. And you think just by walking through this dusty road, up and down, jumping and chanting something, the same thing all the time, you will attain the same thing that all these people doing in other places so hard? She said, I will never be convinced. So I did not argue with her anymore, but she did not accept that. So that is offense also, and these examples are gross. But in our hearts, we can examine us, how we have faith in holy name. That first of all is not that Krishna is in holy name or holy name is in Krishna. Krishna is the holy name. So we can meditate on that. Or not to have faith in Shastra, like we say blasphemy, Vedic literature, but not to have faith, it's also a kind of a blasphemy. Like sometimes when we read some very strong statement, often devotees have tendency to make some adjustment. Yes, but it was in those times, or it is not for grihastas, or it is not for that, or it is not, I'm having different lifestyle. So all these kind of things. So this is very common. So we should be very, very careful. So that effort is, even if we don't have any urgency to attain love of God, at least we should try with to start to avoiding offenses. So besides that, besides clearing offenses, besides the endeavor, we have to actually hear about Krishna. Because if we don't have urgency to attain that realm, if we don't have urgency or attraction towards Krishna, so how we will ever get this attraction if we don't dive into the topics about Krishna, starting from Bhagavad-Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so many other books that Prabhupada has suggested as well, and Prabhupada's books and books by six Goswamis, because we know that Narottam Das Thakur has said we cannot understand Radha and Krishna if we don't take shelter of the books of six Goswamis. So this is not also a whimsical affair. So it is very scientific. So we should put that endeavor of hearing about Krishna and developing that attraction and state of urgency. And it is not something maybe what we have to advertise. That should be internal thing what we are trying to do, establish relationship. Like when we have a relationship with some close friend, we are not going around and announcing in the Mangalarti this and that happened between us, or between me and my husband, we did that yesterday. This is something intimate. So the same relationship with Krishna, it is also intimate. And Prabhupada writes, in the very beginning of Bhagavad-Gita, not even chapter 1, it's an introduction. It is a very beautiful, how he explains this topic about relationship with Krishna. I lost the page, but I will find it very quickly. So then, if we are not attracted to these aspects of Krishna consciousness, then naturally we will be attracted to mundane relationship, because jiva cannot live without relationship. Some relationship must be there. So whether we get attracted to mundane affairs or we get attracted to spiritual affairs, so the choice is up to us. And if we are not attracted to spiritual affairs, what a surprise! We've been conditioned for so long. So there is a way. Prabhupada is giving us the way. So Prabhupada says, as soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he has a direct relationship with the Lord. That is very elaborate subject matter. But briefly, it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of 5 different ways. And then he states all the 5 different rasas. He said Arjuna was in a relationship with the Lord as a friend. Of course, there is a gulf of difference between this friendship and the friendship found in a material world. So here we see there is it's a gulf of difference between the friendship here and a friendship in a spiritual world. But if we don't have a friendship in a spiritual world, we will seek the friendship here. This is transcendental friendship which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by perfection of devotional service. But in the present status of our life, not only we have forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. Every living being, out of many, many billions and trillions of living beings, has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That is called Svarupa. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Svarupa. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Svarupa. And that stage is called Svarupa Siddhi. perfection of one's constitutional position. So Arjuna was a devotee and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. So here we can understand, if we want to be in touch with the Lord, we have to have some shape or form, and here Prabhupada said technically it's called Svarupa, and that Svarupa will be in one of the 5 tastes, mellows or rasas, because every relationship is relationship is rasa. All rasa is in the relationship. If we don't have relationship, we don't have rasa. But we cannot be like this. Some rasa we will have, and some rasa we all already have, but it is stale and it's here in material world and doesn't give us much satisfaction. So there is another option, and we can perform activities and get attracted if we are not. And Prabhupada also, like some people may be a little critical, and they say, oh, nobody likes to hear topics of Kurukshetra. Everybody wants only to hear topics about Vrindavan, about this Leela, that Leela. It's of course everyone's taste, everyone will be different, but there is no surprise that the topics in Vraj is sweeter than any other topic. For example, there was a class, Srila Prabhupada says, there was one politician, Indian politician, I forgot the name. He says, the politician is saying, oh, I don't know, I really want to just meditate on Arjuna and Krishna. He is a Kshatriya type, so he maybe likes these topics. So then Prabhupada comments, he says, doesn't matter. If one is not fortunate to meditate on Radha Krishna, they can also meditate on Arjuna Krishna. So the rasas are different, rasas there for different living entities, but there is perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. So Mahaprabhu has come to give us these pastimes, this glimpse of Braj. So why not to take this advantage and follow that process what Mahaprabhu has given to us and attain the result what he is offering to us. So if we have an offer in front of us, why to hesitate? So we have 2 or 3 minutes left, and I wanted to read one passage from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It is invitation from Bhaktivinoda Thakur for the people of the whole world. So it is some of his poem, but he starts with a nice introduction, but then he ends with an invitation. What he wants us to do, he invites us to do. So he writes about himself first. He starts in his humble mood. Why I, the most unfortunate fallen soul, did not take birth at the time when Sri Gaurachandra inundated the entire world, including the highest mountains, with the flood of love of God. Therefore I was unable to relish those waves of love of God. Why did I not take birth at that time to serve the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya? Why I did not become the servant of Sri Rupa and Sanatana? Why I did not carry the water pot of Raghunath? Why I did not wander about with Ramananda Rai around Chakra Tirtha? Why I did not see the deliverance of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? When Prakashananda Saraswati, the leader of the sannyasis of Kashi, attained spiritual bliss in the form of devotional service to the Lord, why I did not take birth then to relish that devotion filled nectarian waves of the Lord's arguments with Prakashananda? Even though such a coveted desire is rare, still, if I would have taken birth as a mundane logician in the family of Brahmin at that time, then Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the friend of all living entities, would have punished me with his sharp arrow-like words and accepted an atheist like me as his servant. Then he would have entrusted me to Haridas Thakur to be rectified by the chanting of the holy names. Alas, if I could constantly have seen with my spiritual eyes, the Lord sitting in the midst of the Vaishnavas and delivering all living entities who are burned by the fire of material existence through distributing the nectar of the holy name. How much would the associates of the Lord become ecstatic when the Lord would raise his hands after awakening all living entities from the lap of illusion, say, "Take this remedy for material disease, drink the mellows of ecstatic love, and become immortal." As a result, countless human beings who are afraid of demon-like material enjoyment would have begged for his shelter. Then Lord would have embraced them out of love and happily awarded them the love of Krishna. Thus, the material disease of the living entities would have been cured. I am a servant of Sri Chaitanya and am fallen in the material ocean. The Lord is my only guide and protector. According to his order, I am inviting all of you to chant the holy names of Hari. O living entities, O friends, give up Karma Kanda, Tarka Kanda and Brahma Kanda. Come and take the love of God distributed by Sri Chaitanya to your full satisfaction. Then your disappointment will be destroyed. Your contaminated state of conditional life will be vanquished, and you will regain your original constitutional position. You will then attain peace, which is your constitutional characteristic. You will relish the ecstatic love of Krishna unlimitedly. So let's accept this invitation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and without any hesitation and any delay, engaged in the chanting of the holy name, either individually or in congregation. Hare Krishna.